The Locky Trinity came up short last week as Charles Johnson dropped a close split decision to O'Day Osborne. I wish he pushed it a little bit more in that third round, but it is what it is. We end up with an L. However, I got another one wrapped up for you guys for this weekend. Another three-legger for UFC 285, but before we get into it, a quick reminder that the Patreon has all the MMA content that you're looking for. We got breakdowns for PFL Challenger Series and Cage Warriors, which both go down tomorrow. Check out the link in the description below. But next week we also have Challenger Series Week 7, we have the LFA, and not to mention breakdowns for the next UFC event and the upcoming Bellator card have already started dropping on the Patreon. Again, link in the description below. I got you guys covered. All right, now with that out of the way, let's get into the quick 3 picks that I got for the Locky Trinity. Starting off with, I had to do it, a big favorite. There's a couple of them on this card, but one of them specifically stood out to me the most because it is a huge mismatch. We got Garry over Kenan Song. Kenan Song is coming off a lengthy layoff, but this is a horrible stylistic matchup for him, as although he is a striker, he finds it difficult to get a beat on guys that are technically much better than him, which I believe Garry is. Ian does a very good job in terms of using his 6'3" frame and jabbing his opponents from distance while moving laterally in hopes of avoiding the big shots of his opponents. He does a great job of following up that 1 with that 2 down the pipe, and he keeps his shots long and straight, which allows him to keep his opponents at distance and for him to do maximum damage. He has a sneaky trip game and throw game as well if he looks to take fights to the ground, and on the flip side, his takedown defense is very good as well. So even if Kenan Song hopes to use the new skills that he's been learning from Team Alpha Male, I don't think it will come to fruition for him. I expect Garry to get into a groove nice and early in this matchup and eventually find a finish over Kenan Song in the 2nd or 3rd round. The second leg of the Locky Trinity is going to be with the South African Cameron Saaiman. I'm seeing a lot of love for the Mana Martinez side this weekend. The line is starting to come down a little bit. However, I believe a lot of that is rooted in the fact that people believe that Saaiman has a horrible takedown defense game. That is true. However, he does a very good job in terms of hitting reversals, getting back on top of his opponents, or getting back out into distance on the feet, where he's usually able to use his flashy style of striking to get the better of his opponents. He's not super flashy, he's no Michael Venom Page or anything like that, but he does a good job of closing the distance with explosivity, and he's able to land big shots on his opponents, usually touching them up and possibly even finishing them late. So if Martinez looks for a grapple heavy approach here, I don't think he'll be able to control the top position long enough to get off enough damage. He will be getting hit with reversals and then eventually dealing with Cameron Saaiman from on top of him or having to strike with him once again. Martinez has been making some improvements, but I think Saaiman, even though he's only 22 years old, is a very hot prospect, and I think he'll prove it once again this weekend by getting his hand raised. And the last one, I'm going to stick with the South Africans. I'm going to go with Dricus du Plessis as he knocks out Derek Brunson in this matchup. Brunson is coming off a 1-year-long layoff where he ended up getting knocked out in his last fight against Jared Cannonier after having some early success. However, I think the same is going to happen this weekend as du Plessis. Even though he lacks in the technical aspects of the mixed martial arts game, he does a great job of putting his explosivity, his athleticism, and his power to use by knocking out his opponents or finding the finish any way that it comes. A lot of people questioned his ability to win decisions, but he went out there and beat a guy 2 fights ago in Brad Tavares who had 12 decision victories to his name, and he beat him by decision. He may not do the greatest in terms of technical work inside the cage, but he uses his tools very effectively, which is why he has an 18-2 professional MMA record. Brunson might have some takedown success early in this fight, but I think he's going to struggle with holding du Plessis down, which will allow du Plessis to get back to his feet and put that big power on him and eventually knock out Derek Brunson within 10 minutes of this fight. There you guys go, the Locky Trinity. We got Garry, Cameron Saaiman, and Dricus du Plessis. I was able to lock that parlay in for plus 118. You might be able to get a better number now considering the line starting to shift on the Cameron Saaiman side, so you might even be able to get plus 125, plus 130, depending on how much that line has dropped. Regardless, I like the line where it's at plus 118. Hopefully we can cash the ticket this time around and bounce back from the debacle, which was last week, and Charles Johnson fumbling the bag for us. Good luck on your Locky Trinity and any of your plays that you have for this weekend. I'll see you guys again tomorrow for the 3 best prop bets for UFC 285. Peace.